Welcome to episode 8 of Hourigan, Kluger, and Quinn's podcast, Firm Thinking. My name's Nicole Santo.
I'm Mike Lombardo. Hi, everybody. We have a different bend on things today. Over our last few episodes, we've been influencing some of our friends and some important people from our Northeast PA community. But Nicole and I have been talking, and we thought that it's high time that we give some knowledge that we think would be helpful to everyone in terms of car insurance. We understand that this isn't a sexy topic, so to speak, but it's something that we feel that we can give helpful information to folks when they go to buy their next car insurance policy, or if they want to take some time now as we end the year and you're kind of looking back on things, take a look at your policy that you have and decide if it makes sense for you and your family to make some changes.
And we understand that 2020 has been a difficult year for many families, and everyone is looking to adjust their budgets accordingly. But one area that you really do not want to skimp is car insurance, and we'll explain to you why.
We're going to talk about two important topics. It's one is a confusing topic that confuses lawyers, so it's certainly difficult for lay people, and that's the concept of full and limited tort. When you go to buy a car insurance policy, should you buy it on a full and or limited tort basis? And one of the things that we're concerned about is we obviously see a lot of folks that have been in car accidents over the course of the year, and we're just seeing a lot of folks who are electing limited tort, and that's having an ill effect on them when they're in a car accident. It really affects your ability to recover. So we're going to talk about that. And the second thing that we're going to talk about is the concept of uninsurance coverage and underinsurance coverage, and how important that is to make sure that you have that on your policy if you could afford it. We understand that, as Nicole said, these are tough times, but these are important things to protect you, protect your family as you operate your car on the roadways of Northeastern PA. You want to start off with limited tort?
Sure.
It's such a strange name. I think when people hear that, like, what does that mean? What does limited tort mean?
Essentially, in Pennsylvania, there are essentially two different types of insurance options. One is full tort, and the other is limited tort. And essentially, full tort allows you to sue for all of the damages that you have available to you, including pain and suffering. So essentially, when you're in a car accident, what happens is you can sue for your medical bills, you can bring a claim for lost wages if you miss time at work, property damage, and pain and suffering. If you elect full tort coverage, you can recover for all of those claims. However, if you elect limited tort coverage, that precludes you from being able to bring any claim for pain and suffering damages.
And what we see is when we're evaluating a case, typically the pain and suffering aspect of that case is the biggest piece of the damage pie, so to speak. So if you're prevented from recovering for that because of a limited tort selection, it really takes away the biggest piece of the pie and the biggest item of damage that you could potentially recover. So you're really doing yourself some harm. And again, I think one of the things that confuses people is that nomenclature, that limited tort and full tort. And I remember back the days when I first started at this firm, and we would be in meetings and people would be talking about limited tort, full tort. Like, my, what are they talking about? In fact, the legislature has recognized this, and there is an effort afoot to change the name from limited tort to full right to sue and limited right to sue. So it would kind of give people a little bit better of a description in terms of what they're doing. So what Nicole and I are articulating to everyone today that's listening is that when you go to buy your insurance policy, I think the most important thing right off the bat is to ask your agent, or if you're getting it online, I know a lot of people are getting it online and kind of bypassing agents these days. If at all possible, one of the things that you should not try to save money on is a limited versus a full tort policy. You should always elect full tort. That would be our advice. And we do realize that, times are tight. I understand no one likes to pay for car insurance. It seems to be that one item in our budgets that we like to, save if we can. But it's that old adage, a penny wise, a pound foolish. It could really hurt you down the road. So number one, we're suggesting to everyone, and the reason we're suggesting this and what we thought was a good idea to have a podcast on this topic is because we're seeing more and more folks that seem to be electing limited tort, and they're really harming themselves, and we're having to have those conversations with folks about how it's going to be difficult for them to pursue a claim. Now, there are some exceptions to limited tort. I'm not sure we want to get into them in this podcast because they get complicated. And if you're going down that roadway where you're talking about exceptions, you're already sort of behind the 8 ball. So don't even put yourself in that position where we have to talk about that. Let's select full tort if we're buying car insurance. Yeah, let's move on to underinsurance coverage and uninsurance coverage. Again, I think the nomenclature is a little bit confusing to folks. I'm not sure that they totally understand what those are. But we're seeing folks come to us for advice, and we're seeing policies that either don't have that coverage elected or have reduced the amount of coverage that they're electing on their policy. So, Nicole, why don't we start off by just kind of explaining what uninsurance and underinsurance coverage is and what that means?
So essentially, this type of coverage is what protects you if you're in an accident with somebody that has, an at-fault driver, for lack of a better word. So essentially, this is in a situation where you're in an accident with somebody who either does not have insurance or does not have sufficient insurance to compensate you for your injuries. And a lot of times when you're electing insurance coverage, you're so focused on what's called your bodily injury limits, because in Pennsylvania, your bodily injury limits have to equate your underinsured limits unless you specifically waive that and sign down your coverage. And so people a lot of times are focused on that bodily injury limit portion and don't realize that that's not what compensates you if you're in an accident. That's actually what will compensate someone else if you cause an accident.
So we're talking about we're talking about insurance, and I think in this day and age, I think everybody understands that as far as a personal injury claim, an auto accident claim goes, it's all driven by insurance. Most claims that are brought don't affect an individual personally. The insurance carrier is stepping in and paying that claim. So fundamentally, I think most people understand that. So the concept that we're talking about is you go to bring a claim, you bring a claim on the responsible party's insurance, and that party either doesn't have insurance or doesn't have enough insurance to compensate you. You have the ability when you go to buy auto insurance to protect yourself for that eventuality. And again, we're here to tell you that eventuality is coming up. We're seeing that more and more often. We're seeing more and more drivers on the road, either without insurance or with insurance coverage that's inadequate to compensate some of our clients for the injuries that they sustain. Everybody sees those commercials, keep you legal for less and so forth. What those companies are advertising are a barely legal policy, which provides minimal insurance coverage. So we're telling people, if you can afford it, to don't lose sight of that when you're purchasing auto insurance coverage. You have to see and make sure that you're purchasing sufficient underinsurance coverage and uninsurance coverage. Again, underinsurance coverage is for the circumstance where the responsible party doesn't have enough insurance to fully compensate you, so you can make that sort of excess claim on your own policy. Uninsurance coverage is for the scenario when the responsible party doesn't have insurance at all. Again, it's a scenario that we're seeing develop more and more in our area. We're seeing folks driving around without insurance. That could be a problem for you. It could be a catastrophic problem for you if you don't have adequate coverage on your policy. So you need to look at that closely. You need to not view that as an opportunity to save a few dollars. You need to view that as you're making an investment in your safety, in your future, and in your family's future.
And you should, not be tempted. A lot of times your agent or, if you're ordering it online, you'll be prompted to sign down or reduce the amount of underinsurance coverage or uninsured coverage that's available to you. And, we suggest that you don't be tempted by that, if at all possible, because once again, you don't want to sell yourself short in a situation where you're faced with being in an accident with either an underinsured or an uninsured driver.
Right. I think the point that we're trying to make is that when you're being budget conscious, that's not the place to be budget conscious. Car insurance is something, it's very important. It's obviously legally required. But when you're looking and you're making judgments on your policy with your liability coverage that you maintain and your underinsurance coverage that you maintain, if you sign down that coverage or you don't have that coverage at all, if you elect to waive it, which you can do, you're actually insuring other people better than you're insuring yourself and your own family. So it's not a place to, to save a few dollars. There's other things I think in our budgets that we can be more cost conscious on, but car insurance that you maintain should not be one of them.
And just one other concept that we wanted to discuss was the concept of stacking, which essentially is the ability, if you have more than one vehicle in your household, to stack the coverage, meaning to make the coverage additive.
Right. For a very, what we've seen, it's a very minimal fee. It's a very minimal increase in the cost of your insurance policy. As Nicole said, you can choose to elect your underinsurance or your uninsurance coverage on a stacked basis, which it's a force multiplier. You're essentially adding up the coverage on every vehicle in your household. So for example, if you have 3 vehicles in your household and you have $100,000 in underinsurance coverage on each vehicle, and you've elected stacking, you can add that 100 on each car. 100 times 3 equals $300,000 in coverage, which again, if you're in a catastrophic accident and you have medical bills, you have wage losses, and you've had a substantial amount of pain and suffering, you're not able to go back out in the workforce, you're going to want that coverage in that scenario. You're going to want to protect yourself for that eventuality. So these are important things to look at. I would say that if there are folks out there who want us to quickly review their declarations page, reach out to Nicole, reach out to me. We'd be happy to take a quick look at your auto insurance policy. If you look at your auto insurance policy, you have what's called a declarations page. It's usually the first page or 2 of your policy, and it provides a summary of your coverage. Pull that out, take a look at it, and certainly if you have any questions, give us a call.
That's it for today. So like Mike said, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to us by email or otherwise, and we look forward to speaking with you next time.
Take care, everyone.